For those of you that don't know me, my name is Fran Carr. I am the Local History and Genealogy Services Coordinator at the Pendleton County Public Library. My assistant today is Jacob Fields. He's one of our tech kind of people. I said tech kind of people. He's very techy, much more so than me. And so I want to thank him today for helping me and for cleaning this up after it's over, because I make a lot of errors, if you haven't already noticed. This film that we're doing today will be available on our YouTube channel. Lord willing and the creek don't rise and technology doesn't fail, or I don't fail, we'll get it uploaded today. Worst case scenario, hopefully tomorrow. So it will be there for you to view, along with other programs that we have filmed throughout the pandemic so far. I want to thank the Bethel Cemetery Board for allowing us to come today and present this program. Cemetery tours have always been a favorite for us, so we usually get good turnout for them. We'll start, I'm going to ask Jenny to kick us off and talk a little bit about the Campbell family, who was very instrumental in founding Bethel Church and Cemetery, and a little bit about the founding of the church, if you would, or whoever you designate.
Well, we have quite a contingent of Campbells back in that corner of the cemetery. We also have a plaque up here at the monument. The church was built in 1857, I believe. What's the date?
1859.
1859. And as unfortunately, in 2015, it was destroyed. Okay, it was destroyed in a tornado that hit this area, an EF1R2 tornado that destroyed that church. But it had been renovated too, which was disappointing, because we had it all. I had a crew of 4 guys that took on the project of renovating that church, and unfortunately it's not here now. But we do have a nice monument with a picture of that church. If you go to the Facebook page, you can learn a lot more history about the church here. And we also have an info board. The information board traces how that church was built and who was responsible for the rebuilding of the church, and then what finally happened to the church itself. So T.J. Campbell was the one that built the church back in what was the date again?
77, nope, finished in 79.
Finished in 79, 1879. T.J. and his son, I think it was Frank, finished it.
Yeah.
TJ's farm was the next farm over. If you go past the Brent Moore farm, we have a farm next to Brent's. We have 50 acres, which is the original homestead of T.J. Campbell. Now, I keep saying T.J., it's Thomas Jefferson Campbell. And he was the one, of course, that built the church. We do have books that show some of the information about some of the diagrams, I believe, in the Campbell book that we have in our family. But he was quite instrumental in getting that church built, along with his son. And I think the son that helped him was Frank Campbell.
Frank and James, both.
Frank and James, his 2 sons. And again, their plots are back in the back corner, kind of the southwest corner of the cemetery.
The Campbells are kind of like the Bradfords. There's even more Campbell people behind them, only their last name is Stevens. It's kind of like it's the female marrying off. I just mentioned that the Campbells are kind of like the Bradfords. When they have daughters, the daughters they marry people with different last names. So the Stevens plot is part of the Campbells as well, which is right behind on the back corner. There's probably 20 other people related. We just don't know who.
Talking about some of the other people buried here,
Well,
or do you want to take us through the cemetery and show us?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Charlie Piles, and I have a current list that we've been working on based on a list that Cheryl Hassan and myself, we've been working on for several years. There's about 440 names on our current list, and in this cemetery, the sergeants have the most burials of 30, Bradfords have 26, Cumminses have 25, and then behind them is 14 Purdy's, 13 Loomises, 13 Sorrells, and 9 Campbells. And I learned as I went through this list that there's several families that are interconnected, like they discussed before. So they, there's, she married he and all that, and one day I'd like to put together a genealogy, but I'm 77 years old, so I may run out of time. So that's about what I can tell you on the current conversation here, so you can have this.
My name is Gary Casson, and I'm Elijah Sargent, buried just on the other side of the fence there is my great-great-great-grandfather. But the reason that I wanted to talk with you is to give some recognition. There was an early mention that the renovation of the church multiple times and the renovation of the cemetery. A tremendous amount of work was put into that effort, and the 4 individuals who did that are Obie Fardo, and Obie's deceased. And we have with us here today Frank Hassan, back here in the green shirt, Billy Newman, right in front of Frank, and then Charlie Piles. Those 4 individuals, it took them about 5 years to the work that they did. And after they had it completed, there was a tornado came through and wiped out all of their work in 2007. But they were persistent. They went back, they did fundraising, they begged for help wherever they could get it, but they did a tremendous amount of the work themselves, and they rebuilt everything that was torn apart. And then guess what? In 2008, another tornado came through. And they totally rebuilt the church, and we have some beautiful pictures, one of which is included over here in the monument. And so everything was restored back to order. In fact, I'm pleased to say that I did, if not the last, one of the last presentations in that church, which was giving recognition to those 4 individuals for the excellent work that they did. And in fact, what I wanted to share with you is that they were nominated for the Ida Lee Willis Memorial Foundation Historic Preservation Award. That's a prestigious award that's given at the Governor's Mansion in Frankfort, Kentucky. And so they were nominated. In fact, they were selected to receive the award. So they were given a visit to the Governor's Mansion, served them a nice meal, had a ceremony, gave them each a plaque or some form of recognition for their excellent work. And I just couldn't miss the opportunity to share all of the work that they did. At that time, keep in mind, they were working against obstacles that were just unimaginable. The church was in a deplorable condition. I have a 5-page report in front of me that describes all of the problems, the varmints that tore things apart, how things had blown off, siding was missing, floors, it was off its foundation. I could talk for the next week about all of the problems of that building, and they restored it. And they tried to restore it with original materials and do an excellent job of it. In fact, they did an excellent job, as can be seen in that photo that we have over here. So I don't want to talk too much longer, but I did want to take the time to give recognition to these gentlemen for the excellent work they did to try to preserve the cemetery. I could talk about what they did to put fallen stones back up on their feet, what they did to repair stones, what they did to level sunken ground, what they did to get trees moved out of the cemetery that had fallen over, and I could even go on and on about what they did for the church itself. And by the way, after they received that award, I'll let Charlie tell you what happened and the reason the church isn't here today. Charlie?
You're talking about after we received the Ida Lee Willis Award?
Yes, sir. And the church was still here when you received
Well,
the
right,
award.
the church was still here, but, Merry Christmas in 2015. On December the 23rd, I got a call from, I think it was Elwood, and said, I got some news for you. The church is still there, and the lights are on, but the roof's gone. So it had blown away in an EF1 tornado. And after that, the board voted to go ahead and bring the church down, which was done. And Jenny led the effort to put this memorial over here in place of the church. And it sits approximately where the front door of the church was at that time. So and today we're just into trying to keep the cemetery looking good, because that's all we've got to work with these days, and we'll continue to do that. So we're talking about the rock wall a little bit, and there's a lot of different opinions about that. My opinion right at the present time is that we just shore it up the way it is and not try to replace it. So anyway, that's my opinion about that, and I'll pass this on back to Fran.
Charlie, while you're still standing here, do you want to kind of plug how people who might be watching this video and want to donate either to the wall or to the cemetery as a whole, how they can go about doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're watching this and you would like to donate, there are several ways to do it. The easiest way is you can make a deposit in any Fifth Third bank to the Bethel Cemetery Corporation, Inc. And it's just that easy. So that's the very easiest way. If you'd like to fund the rebuilding of the wall, which we've already discovered, if you wanted to do that, we'd have to have it dry laid, and it would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000, 200 and some odd dollars per foot. And it's going to be hard to find anybody that even wants to do it, let alone for that price. So, and currently, my wife and I this week, we cleaned out all the bushes along the fence. So if you look at it from the road, you're not looking at any trees or bushes in front of the wall. You can just see the wall, except for a telephone pole out there by the left-hand side of it as you look this way. And so we're currently, I've got stuff with me today. I'm going to try to treat some of the tombstones that you can't read. I've got a magic elixir with me to work down some of the family stones, and we're going to try to make them more visible. And I do have a database that Jenny has already told everybody about, and I'll make that database available for those people if you see it on YouTube even. If you go to our Facebook page and look at the files, you should be able to download this file. It's just called Bethel Census 2021, and that's got about 440 names on it.
Do you have a PayPal or a way for people to donate online?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Okay, what they're saying there is that there is no PayPal right now online if you're interested in donating that. It would be,
We're working on it.
they're working on it. It's
But-
Billy.
But it's easy enough, just go to the bank, put a
Oh,
deposit.
yeah.
If you know any veterans that we don't know about, we'd like to know about them.
Okay, if you know of any
Well, we
veterans
honor 'em.
buried here that
It's here.
they don't know about, and that can be found on Find a Grave or on their database, please let the cemetery board know that. That's what they're saying. Okay, so anybody want to talk about the Bradfords that are buried here?
Just gonna talk a little bit about.
Go on. Sorry.
I wanted to talk about the Bradfords. Okay. I have in my hand a survey from a surveyor of the Bradford will, where he donated when William Bradford back in the 1850s passed away. He donated the land for the cemetery and the church, and that's what this survey is showing here. How much land he gave to his 2 daughters, I believe it was, and a son. And then in the middle of all that is the cemetery and the church. So all this land that we look at around here was Bradford territory at one time, Bradford land. Now over here in the corner of the cemetery is the very first grave put into Bethel Cemetery, and that was his first wife in 1843. She was Mary Catherine Bradford. She's buried, I think, next to the second wife, Mahala Bradford. And then I think his stone is next to Mahala. We have to do some rubbings on that stone to really verify that is his stone, but we're pretty sure it is. And so that whole corner there is nothing but Bradfords. And from there, the cemetery has been expanded one more time, I think in the late and around the 50s, 1950s, and so there were more spaces added at the end of the cemetery here.
Okay. I do know that we have some veterans here, and we want to visit our meritorious award-winning Mr. Rarick back here. I think Coleman Asbury would have been the earliest war, right? War of 1812. We don't have any, I don't think that there are any Revolutionary War here. Okay. So he would have been the oldest. He did fight the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We were talking earlier about this corner being Bradford's. This is the corner we're talking about. And Jacob, you'll just kind of pan around and show them the scenery around us. Do just a total 360. Oh, I've been stuck several times. So if you come out here looking for these Bradfords, you'll be able to find them. I'm stopped at T.K. Bradford's grave right now. But even behind us, there are more Bradfords. I believe Rarick is back this way, correct? I see him. He's got a military stone.
And by the way, that's a verification. It was a family cemetery because the cemetery itself wasn't built until 1848.
Okay, so what do you say that on here? We can hear you.
Okay. Notice the dates on these stones go back to the early 1800s. This one alongside of me, 1826. So it must have been a family cemetery, and it became an official cemetery in 1848.
And that was, we're standing next to the T.K. Bradford stone. We just moved a few feet from it. Okay. Here we are at the gravesite of John Rarick. I think you can read the stone, 1845-1902. Medal of Honor, Indian Campaigns, Private U.S. Army, Company A.L. 8th Cavalry. There are two different spellings that he used in his name. Frank, I believe you got this stone for him?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, we went through 2 years fighting against stone. We got a call one day from Virginia to the Historical Society of Wrestling Medal of Honor, and said, "But you got a Wrestling Medal of Honor winner in your state." We didn't know. But we did some research. And it was buried there. And his stone was misspelled stone. And it took us a couple of years to convince him and to get this stuff. The Congressional Medal of Honor Society paid for the stone and had it shipped to peoples up there. And then Billy and I got it in the ground underneath. And this is the original stone.
Mentioning war efforts and everything on much.
Right. Yeah. There's not much out there about what he did to get the medal. I've looked. He just was in an Indian campaign, and I don't even think that his record even gave a date for the exact, well, it may have given a date, but it didn't tell what they were doing exactly that day to get it.
And
But a lot of times at that point in our history, they were not, if you excelled in the military, they would give you a promotion. And with a promotion came a permanent pay raise. So what I found out when I was looking into him was that they chose to give medals of honor instead of a promotion because they didn't have to pay him. So a lot of those were given out. Two men who did excel in the military, did do valorous acts, I guess is the word I want to say. And instead of promoting them, they gave them the Medal of Honor.
It don't show it, but the letter was in gold when we first got it.
Okay. Well, it does look a little bit kind of gold or bronze.
years later, after we got died, his wife tried to sell him back to the government. It was interesting.
I think she needed money.
Yeah. She was
Yeah.
very-
Okay, we are with Billy Newman over here at the Sergeant grave. This is Charles and Nancy. So Billy, what do you want to tell us about them?
Well, they lived over my great-grandfather and mother, and they lived over Williamstown, and over here at Falmouth is probably a 10-mile drive in a buggy to decorate the grave. And so that's about all I got on it. And then down this road here, there's an awful lot of sergeants, but they don't have tombstones.
And that was pretty common
Yeah.
to not have a stone.
And she had 2 sets of twins at different times, but they didn't live after birth.
And that was Nancy?
Yeah,
Okay. And I assume they're buried here, maybe?
I don't know. Couldn't see the records.
Okay, I am standing on the Asbury plot. As you can see, there's a stone in the back here that says Asbury. Right here in front of me is Coleman Reed Asbury. Frank spoke briefly about him. We believe he may have been born in Virginia. Possibly the son of Joseph, and the name of his mother is lost to time. But he settled in Collinsville. And just a little while before he died, he came to this area and lived in the home of Lafayette Jones, where he died. Coleman also has daughters buried here as well. One married to Bradford, and one married to Dance. And it looks like we have a James Dance buried over here. Let's see, this one. Oh yes, this one over here is Russell Bradford. Russell was a son-in-law of Coleman Asbury. Likely Russell's wife is buried here as well. They lived, I believe, around Catawba, possibly Grassy Creek. Some of his kids were in both locations at various times. Over here under this tree, we also have more of Coleman's descendants and Bradford descendants as well. I believe over there where Billy is getting into that hole, there is a tombstone of a Bradford there. So we'll show you that.
Here's some of the graphics.
Yeah.
Here's one there, one here.
And over time, the tree has just kind of swallowed up the grave spot. Is Coleman one of those? Coleman Bradford, one of these? Coleman Bradford, yes. This one over, yeah, the military stone was Coleman Bradford, who was named after his grandfather, Coleman Asbury. This stone right here is just, we don't really know who's buried there, but it's kind of a homemade stone, obviously, using field stone, and you can see the shell trim on it. It's probably the most unique marker here. So this is Billy's great-grandfather, or great-great, and
My 3 times great.
you're 3 times great.
2 times.
And this is Esther Elijah's wife.
Okay, and Jake, if you can kind of zoom in and show them here how they've repaired that. And I believe this is a special mortar, is it? Or
That's a Billy question.
Yes, it's a special thing that we get to put together. And it does very well.
now, were you able to repair it right here, or did you have to lay it flat?
We probably repaired this here because we didn't dig it up. But we
Okay.
take a lot of stones and take them someplace and repair them.
Right.
But we didn't dig this up, basically.
So it sets up pretty quickly. Were they able to walk
Overnight, I'd say.
overnight?
Yeah.
So what keeps it from falling off then when you walk off and leave it?
Yeah.
Prayers?
But they must have used some kind of braces.
I would think so, yeah. So that's what I was wanting to tell me about.
When we
Okay.
started restoring the cemeteries, a lot of trees grew.
Right.
The community come together and done that.
was a lot of community effort on this. And then this stone is, of course, Elijah's wife. It was also repaired. Let me see if we can see where. Maybe up here.
We can get it out of that book down there.
If you can't see the repair, that's an outstanding repair, right?
Right. I think that looking down on it, it looked like there was a line in there.
Well, we can look at the book down there and see what the right is. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And this program will be on YouTube.
This will be on our YouTube station. Yes. Okay. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you next month for Marvin Sullivan. Thank you. Bye.